think we can go ahead and get started. I will hand it over to Michelle Bowden, our Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer from the New Jersey Economic Development, to get us started.
Okay, thanks, Julia. Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Friday. It's so good to see all of you here. We thank you so much for registering. We have a great program or a great presentation in store for you today. We want to thank you to all of our chambers. You know, we work very closely with you with pretty much everything, everything that we're trying to do as we increase business opportunities for our XBEs, our minority, our women, our veteran-owned businesses within the state. And we will continue to collaborate closely with you. We thank you for the work that you do in the community with our businesses. We know that, we're in this together, fighting a good fight to increase opportunities. And we couldn't do this work without you. We are now in the beginning stages of constructing our state's largest, I like to say, because it's our largest infrastructure project, the New Jersey Windport, which will be constructed and located in Salem County, New Jersey. So that's big stuff, driving innovation to the southern region part of the state. And as I said, we are in the very, very beginning stages of this project with more phases and rollouts happening over the next several years across construction and related services. So there will be many chances for you all to be involved with the project. But we wanted to, start off with taking a look and taking a dive into explaining what these different phases will entail, the different phases of the project. So we're just happy to have you all here. Please sit back, relax, tune in, and we look forward to a very lively and engaging discussion. And we are absolutely here to answer any of the questions that you may have, now during the presentation and even after. So again, we thank you and look forward to the engagement.
Thanks so much, Michelle. And we are incredibly appreciative to have Michelle's leadership in helping ensure that diverse businesses have real opportunities to compete for all of our projects, whether they be massive infrastructure projects like the New Jersey Windport or smaller, more local projects throughout the state. So I will get started on our presentation. I also want to acknowledge and recognize our chambers who have helped us champion and shape this webinar with the African American Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber, Veterans Chamber, the Women's Business Owner Chambers. All of these state chambers of commerce have been incredibly important partners for us throughout this project, not just this info session, and we're really looking forward to continuing those partnerships. So just a quick overview of what we're looking to accomplish today. I will provide an overview of offshore wind in New Jersey, just so everyone has a clear understanding of where this project fits in and the massive opportunities throughout the industry that go beyond the Windport project. And then a quick overview of the Windport project itself. And then we'll pass it along to our AECOM Tishman team in the Southern New Jersey Southern New Jersey Development Council, who are our construction manager at risk for the project, AECOM Tishman. And then we'll leave about 15 minutes for question and answer. I do want to encourage folks to put questions in the chat or in the Q&A, preferably the Q&A if you're able to navigate all the fun Zoom features. And we will make sure to be able to answer as much as we can at the end. We have over 200 attendees today, and so I want to make sure that we're able to receive all of those questions. Even if we can't get to them today, we'll make sure that we get to them in a form of follow-up or other ways to make sure that everybody has their questions and clarifications as needed. So I'll kick it off with the quick overview. So as you may have heard, offshore wind is really a once in a generation opportunity for the state and the region and the United States. We expect over $150 billion in investment along the East Coast over the next 15 years as we build offshore wind farms, upgrade our grid and transmission infrastructure to support the increased needs for energy and electrification of our grid system, as well as all of the economic development opportunities as we have manufacturing and port upgrades, siting permitting, as I'll dig into. But New Jersey and the EDA have really focused on how can we capture as much as possible of that $150 billion in investment to the state of New Jersey. And one of the ways we really have four key pillars into helping make New Jersey an emerging hub and getting more than our fair share of investment from the offshore wind industry. So we have a very strong political commitment from Governor Murphy to offshore wind with a commitment of over 7,500 megawatts of procurement of offshore wind energy over the next 15 years. And that's set to double to at least 1,500 by 2050 to make our 100% clean energy goals. In our talks and conversations and market soundings with industry, we found that port investments were actually one of the key factors to attracting investment. And so we have made it a big pillar of our investment and strategy for offshore wind, which is one of the reasons why the New Jersey Wind Port is our crown jewel investment, which we'll talk about shortly. And fourth, we have a very strong workforce and supply chain growth strategy. We see offshore wind as not just an opportunity for clean energy and helping us decarbonize our grid, but also making sure that New Jersey workers and businesses really benefit from these investments and are able to capture as much opportunity as our economy transitions over time and these investments continue to grow over the next several decades. So to just frame our the various facets of offshore wind opportunities, there are really three primary areas where businesses can tap into to support offshore wind. So first being offshore wind projects. So you may have heard about Ørsted and their Ocean Wind project, or Atlantic Shores, another offshore wind developer developing a large project off the coast of Atlantic City as well. New Jersey businesses, as I'll talk about a little bit more, have opportunities to support in siting and permitting, manufacturing, construction and installation, operations and maintenance, and then decommissioning several decades after they've had their useful life as a offshore wind farm. And then the second area being transmission and grid solutions. So we, as a nation in general, need to upgrade our transmission and grid infrastructure as it is aging, and it is also an opportune time for us to focus on making sure that the transmission can support the reallocation of energy sources with more offshore, energy from offshore wind coming from the ocean. It needs to plug into the eastern side of the state, whereas we've had historically a lot of our energy coming from the western side of the state. So there are ample opportunities to support on these massive infrastructure and grid projects that will be lots of construction and engineering to support these upgrades. And then third, offshore wind infrastructure and facility development. So we have have a number of opportunities to develop and upgrade our ports, rail systems, roads, and other infrastructure, as well as needing to construct new buildings and facilities to support the activities of offshore wind, whether that's manufacturing, operations and maintenance, creating R&D facilities. And of course, all three of these intersect with each other. So as you'll hear, offshore wind projects often drive our plans for transmission and grid solutions, and our offshore wind infrastructure and facility development really connects all three of these together to make sure that we have a robust plan for delivering offshore wind successfully and affordably throughout the state. So going into the offshore wind projects, New Jersey has been taking a value-oriented approach to offshore wind development and having a large focus on economic benefits to the state and residents. So we're not just focused on making, or not just focused on price, we are also focused on those economic benefits. So in our first three projects, Ocean Wind 1, Ocean Wind 2, and Atlantic Shores, we have strong commitments from the offshore wind developers to develop in-state facilities, whether that be EEW's monopile fabrication in Paulsboro, New Jersey, which will require thousands of tons to produce monopile foundations that go into the seabed and support offshore wind turbines, or specifically supporting small women, minority-owned businesses, and other XBEs in retooling, increasing capacity, or other changes or opportunities that they could take advantage of to be more competitive in the industry. We're also seeing an increase in commitment for workforce development, with Atlantic Shores, for example, committing over $14 million for workforce development support to complement all of the activities that we're doing in the state for offshore wind. In addition to these three projects, we expect there to be a new offshore wind developers entering the New Jersey market through an upcoming federal lease auction called the New York-New Jersey Bight. So offshore wind has the lease areas where companies build farms are in federal waters, so they have to be approved by the federal government. And then these developers bid to sell their energy to states through our own state procurements, and that's where the projects come along. So we expect there to be 5 to 7 more developers looking to do activities like siting and permitting and other analyses ahead of bidding for the next offshore wind solicitation. And or they will be looking for partners to support this work in New Jersey. So we expect these lease areas to be awarded by the end of the year, and then increased competition and supply chain demand as they get prepared and start doing the surveying and other work to prepare for their auctions. And just really quickly to anchor you on some of the timing of these projects. So the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities issues a new solicitation every 2 years through 2028 to get us to that 7,500 megawatts by 2035. We have our next solicitation expected in Q3 2022. And that'll be awarded in 2023, but there's lots of preparation work needed by New Jersey businesses to support that work. But this will help, I think, also helps with anchoring around, when do you need to be ready? what are the opportunities for contracts in the offshore wind project side of these. Happy to talk more about this, but wanted to make sure that this slide and reference is available post presentation. Another big question we get around offshore wind and the supply chain is where folks fit in. So typically the offshore wind developers at Atlantic Shores, Equinor, are not who the typical business is contracting with. You're typically contracting farther down on the supply chain. So there are these main packages here. And then you're looking, maybe you're doing secondary steel fabrication or cable protection, or you provide services and goods that you would sell into or bid to the lower tier manufacturers or other suppliers. So there's quite a and happy to unpack this more, but wanted to just be clear that when you're thinking about the offshore wind projects in particular, to be thinking about what are you trying to sell or service, and who are you trying to contract with, and that is typically not the offshore wind developer. So finally, there is the business opportunity timeline. So lots of work goes into the lead up of offshore wind projects. I won't go into the details here, but I'll just note that it can be a 5 to 7 year process before a project is built, and this timing is something to be quite aware of. So in terms of grid and transmission projects, so as similar to the New Jersey wind port, there are significant construction and related opportunities to the offshore, to the transmission upgrade. So the BPU issued a solicitation along with PJM to identify transmission projects that would address New Jersey's goals for 7,500 megawatts of offshore wind. These companies all provided proposals and are currently being reviewed. So there are already over 80 proposals to provide upgrades, build new onshore and offshore transmission connections. And they're expecting to make awards by the end of 2022. But in the interim, if this is an area that's of interest to you, I encourage you to look up these companies and the proposals that they have issued publicly. I think that they are all trying to be ready in the event that they win at the end of next year to get started immediately. And so having those partnerships early is quite important. And then third, are offshore wind infrastructure and facilities. So development of and upgrades to ports across the state, and particularly, or infrastructure and facilities, and particularly ports, are needed to support the industry. Offshore wind has incredibly unique specifications because of the massive size of these components, along with the very big focus on safety. Just like the oil and gas industry, there's a big focus on safety and making sure that there are as few errors as possible, and that specifications are very, very unique to support the industry. So there are 3 types of ports: manufacturing, marshaling, and operations and maintenance. What's unique about the New Jersey wind port is that it is able to deliver both offshore wind manufacturing and marshaling, which is essentially the transport of components, and why it has been our crown jewel investment. And I'll just pause here to say that our resource, as you're thinking about entering the industry, is the African American Chamber of Commerce's Small Business Bonding Readiness Assistance Program that can support support businesses and technical assistance and access to capital to make sure that these are not reasons why you're not able to compete for contracts. You can click here in the slides afterward to apply if you're interested. They're currently taking applications and expecting to have the next cohort in 2022 or Q1 2022. So moving on to the New Jersey Windport project. It will be the first purpose-built offshore windport in the United States. It's located in Lower Alloys Creek, adjacent to the Hope Creek nuclear facility operated by PSE&G. It's a massive port with up to over 200 acres of space that could be used for offshore wind manufacturing and marshaling. We have a two-phase approach, with the first phase of the project being completed by 2024 to support marshaling and manufacturing, and then it'll continue to grow over the years, likely completing by 2027. So this is not a one and done opportunity. There's going to be several opportunities for participating in this project. I won't get into the details of the phases of the project. I think that this will be covered in AECOM's bid packages. You'll get a flavor of what are some of the package needs. But for your reference, just lots of various parts of the project, and expecting to be able to continue on to phase 2 in the coming years. Just a quick note, we do have offshore wind developers and manufacturers already interested in locating at the wind port. We received 16 non-binding bids from 6 bidders in October, and we're currently evaluating those bids. This is in addition to what you may already know publicly, that Ocean Wind and Atlantic Shores projects have committed to using the wind port. So this is not even a build it and they will come. We're building it, and we have already pent up demand for the port. So very quickly, AECOM Tishman was awarded the construction manager at risk contract in summer 2021. Construction is expected to start more fully later this year, with planning to open in 2023, 2024. I'll let AECOM Tishman talk more about the phasing and activities, just for the sake of time. I know we're running behind here. And then we have a very strong commitment to local engagement with Salem County and South Jersey more broadly. We have formed a diversity and local engagement advisory committee of local leaders to support our engagement efforts. AECOM Tishman has signed a PLA with the South Jersey Building and Construction Trades Council. So these will primarily be union jobs. So non-union businesses can sign a letter of assent to participate. And then we have affirmative action goals for workers in construction. So 18% minority workers and 7% female. We also have committed to setting a new standard for inclusion of women and minority-owned businesses in contracting. So 15% set aside goal for minority, women, veteran-owned businesses, 25% for small businesses, 3% for disabled businesses, and AECOM is also committed to a 6% set aside goal for Salem County businesses, so a local business set aside goal. If you haven't already, I want to stress the importance of registering your SP with NJSAB. The link is here. the fee has been waived by the Treasury, so there's no longer a monetary cost to registering. But this is important to be able to count toward these goals and compete for contracts. So I will pass it over to AECOM Tishman and SNJDC to talk more about contracting opportunities.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Randy Dolliper, a Vice President with Tishman Construction and Construction Management Director for the Windport project. We're serving as the project's construction manager. We're procuring and managing roughly 10 prime contract packages for NJEDA. As Julia mentioned, this is a union project under a project labor agreement, although there's some provisions within the PLA for inclusion of non-union prevailing wage XBEs. Bonds will be required for all prime contracts, so bonding capacity has to be considered for primes wanting to pursue this work. Of the 10 packages, the first 3, which we'll call Marine Package, Earthworks Package, Site Utilities, are fairly large in value and complexity. Parcel A is that area there. This is just north of the nuclear power plant, and that's the first area that we will be developing. And those the packages that are going out now relate to that area. It's a marshaling port. It's the Marine Package is mostly consisting of, and why don't we go up a couple of slides. One more there. The marine work, this kind of outlines some of the work involved in it. There's sheet piling. There's about 1,700 precast piles, deep foundations. It includes the bollards and fenders and the cast in place concrete. Pretty much what it takes to build the wharf itself. And as you can see here, even if you're not a prime, there's lots of possibilities for subcontracting. We will be asking the prime bidders to get the participation of the XBEs, and we will have identified smaller packages, as you see there on the left, going from safety equipment and dumpsters to larger elements. The next package, let's go to, is Earthworks. This job involves surcharging the area to get the high capacity that's needed for these heavy loads that are going to be on the wharf. So there are periods of surcharge. So a lot of this is moving soils around and leaving them sit 30 foot high for a long period of time, and then moving them to the next spot. So earthwork is primarily moving that surcharge material around, but it'll also include other elements of earthwork. Again, the trucking of the soil, the equipment, the wick drain installation, the geological or geotechnical monitoring, all of these things are subcomponents that are possibilities for second, third tier companies. Beyond earthwork, another large package is the site utilities. There are stormwater. Why don't we go forward on a slide or two? One more. Site utilities, there's a extensive stormwater retention system built into the project with storm drains, hydrant water systems. There is a weir system at the north end of the site that allows the dredge material to drain out. So there is site utility work related to that. Again, there's trucking, rentals, trailers, cast in place concrete with rebar materials installation, a lot of smaller packages. Then after those three, we get into some of the that are a little bit smaller. I mean, they're not insignificant, but mechanical dredging and marine demo, it's kind of a specialty, but even there's probably opportunities for XBEs to participate with it, or even possibly bid as primes. Dredging, and then the next one is electrical. There are a dozen high mast light fixtures with deep foundations. It's not a simple electrical job, but it's not so large that a XBE might take this on as a prime, or if not as a prime, then support of the various components of it. There's transformers and switch gear and disconnects and underground duct banks. All of this are parts of the electrical work. Next is concrete. That weir device at or structure at the north end will require a 3-foot thick concrete mat foundation. We've identified that as part of the a large part of this concrete package, but it's not that large or complex that a XBE firm might take it on. Again, within that there are a lot of subcomponents that are also possibilities for an XBE. Next is Miss Metals. The weir tower itself is a 3-story high structural steel structure with catwalks and stairs and railings, and so that's the primary thing within this, but there are a few other miscellaneous things that we will be buying with the Miss Metals package. Next is road work. There's not a lot of roads in this initial parcel A. There's some driveways, some paving. We will probably have the roadwork contractor also do the compacted stone finishing of site roads. There's a site road that goes along the top of the confined storage facility at the north end where the dredge material is going. So the roads will probably be in this package. And I think the last one we have is fencing, relatively small, but there is a substantial chain link fence that goes around the facility when it's done. A package like this, we would really try hard to we would focus on this as a potential XBE package. And that's, well, it's not it, because there are a lot of small components that make up a job. As you can see here on the screen, there's a lot of smaller items that are potential tasks for an XBE.
To note here, if folks are interested in bidding to, as we'll talk at the end and follow up, just be aware of the quick time here.
Rosanna Caputo with AECOM Tishman. I am handling the bidding and procurement for Parcel A. As Randy explained about the different packages, for those interested in bidding as a prime, AECOM Tishman has a pre-qualification process, which we do via TradeTap. TradeTap is a web-based platform we use. The pre-qual process through TradeTap is secure and confidential. When you sign up to TradeTap, you'll be part of the network, which in turn you can be accessed for future work when we pre-qualify a contractor. in order to receive a pre-qualification invite, the interested contractor needs to send us an email to the project email, which is info@njwindportcm.com. This email address will be in a slide later, so you guys will be able to get that. In that email, you need to state your company name, the contact from your company that handles pre-qualifications. From that contact, I need a name and an email address. Once we enter that information into TradeTap, that person will get an automated email from TradeTap inviting to pre-qualify. I think the next slide kind of shows what the invite looks like. Yeah, so you would receive an email like that. You can just click on accept invitation to either sign up in TradeTap, unless you're already in TradeTap. TradeTap is now in connection with Building Connected. So Building Connected is where we send our invitations to bid through. So if you're already in Building Connected, you can automatically be filling out the pre-qual questionnaire for TradeTap. The typical information that you need to enter into the questionnaire, right, to get pre-qualified are such as current projects, average job size, project history, safety records, insurance records, bonding capacity. You need to enter your banking information, such as you would have to upload your W-9, total line of credit information, financial statements, and stuff like that. If during the questionnaire, right, if anybody has any technical difficulties, TradeTap does have that email, support@tradetap.com, that you guys can reach out and see if you can get help to them. As Randy said, invitations to bid have, well, that last slide, right? They have been sent out and bids are due December 3rd. So if anybody is interested in possibly bidding as one of those 10 prime packages, right? We need these emails with the pre-qualification information sent ASAP. We will, as far as anybody that's interested in being possibly a second tier sub or vendor, we don't need to go through the pre-qual process for that. However, you will need to contact our prime bidders, which will be sending out our prime bidders list to everyone on this call in a follow-up email. And you guys can just contact them directly for bidding opportunity. That is all from my end.
Great, thank you so much. So just this last slide here is our some of our team members focus on offshore wind. Love to connect with you, whether you're focused on the Windport project opportunities or some of the other opportunities that we discussed at the beginning of the PowerPoint. And this will be sent out as part of our follow-up, so you'll have all of our contact information. So without further ado, we will transition over to question and answer. I see the chat and the Q&A have been quite lively. So we're looking forward to getting your questions and hearing your thoughts.
So I have been trying to answer as many of the questions as possible in the Q&A. I have not gotten to all of them yet. I'll say for any that we don't get today, we'll also follow up afterwards. There's been a number of questions just about the term XBE. So just want to clarify that that's sort of a newly used term that we've been hearing, and it's sort of an umbrella for number of or the variety of diverse businesses. So whether that's minority, women, veteran, disabled veteran, small, disadvantaged, I may be forgetting local, forgetting a few there, and that's why we've been starting to use XBE in sort of presentations like this. Is just a way to sort of shorten that, but that is sort of the umbrella term. I'm just going to go up, and for ones that I can answer, I will, and for those that I can, I'll hand that off to the appropriate person. There was a question about opportunities for stakeholder engagement for the Windport project itself. Stakeholder engagement services are currently being done through the AECOM contract with the South New Jersey Business Development Council. So additional stakeholder engagement support for the Windport project itself at this point is not anticipated, but that doesn't mean that in the future there wouldn't be additional opportunities. Julie, I'm going to pass this to you. There's a question about the Cape May ports engaged with offshore wind, since it was noted on that slide.
Yes, so Cape May has the ports and facilities there have not currently been selected for any specific projects, but it has been identified as a location for future offshore wind developers that may want to site a operations and maintenance facility in Cape May. So no current plans, but definitely an area that is well suited for offshore wind activities. And I should note those would be much more minor than the Windport. We're not looking to build a massive project there, and I don't think that is what the community has in mind for their involvement in offshore wind. I think the smaller operations and maintenance is much more likely.
There was a question about where to get certified as an XBE. That is done through the Department of Treasury. There's that link that Julia had included in her presentation. Again, the presentation will be shared with you after this webinar, so you'll have all those links. But that is through the Department of Treasury. They've waived the certification fee, and so that would be the place we want to get certified there. There was a question about what does the letter of assent mean? Maybe Randy, I'll give that to you.
Could you repeat the letter?
What the letter of assent means for if you're a non-union company.
It's in the project labor agreement, I believe. As I understand it, it's basically a non-union company agreeing to comply with the terms of the project labor agreement that had been negotiated between us and the unions.
And is that applicable to all packages? And it is correct that it would be only applicable to this project for when it is applicable.
Right. That's my understanding, that this PLA is for this particular phase of the project. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not sure how it goes beyond, extension as the work expands into the other phases. I would assume that it would be the same would apply, and the agreement would be extended out. I think that's probable.
And I think we can get more clarity on that, on those specifics for folks as part of our follow-up.
There was a question about the difference in percentages, the 18% versus the 15%. The 18% is about individual workers. That's minority workers on the job site. The 15% refers to the contract value for minority, women, veteran-owned firms.
Yes.
Trying to get through all these here. Sorry. There's a question again. I'll put this to Randy. Are there opportunities for PM or CM functions for MWEs working directly for AECOM Tishman?
There might be, but we are pretty much staffed, because we're basically starting construction very soon, within a month or so. So we have our team pretty much in place. I wouldn't rule anything out, but So if a firm, if an XBE thinks that they have a contribution, they should contact us.
Another question for you, Randy. Will there be a need to monitor the progress of the construction using cameras?
There is definitely a plan to monitor the job with use of cameras, and we have been looking at several vendors. It's a interactive thing with EDA and what their needs are. So those discussions have been going on.
Just a note that some of my colleagues here from EDA and ACOM are answering some of the questions live in the Q&A as well, trying to get all the questions answered in multiple ways. So if I'm not saying your question live, that's why I look there. Julie, there's a question about, will Ocean Wind 1 perform nacelle assembly?
We don't expect that Ocean Wind 1 will perform nacelle assembly. It is likely Ocean Wind 2 and Atlantic Shores will be the first two projects to perform some type of nacelle assembly, whether that be at the wind port or elsewhere in the state.
There's some questions here about contacting and trade tap. Rosanna, if you wouldn't mind, if in the chat you could just share that NJ Windport CM email in there as well. It'll also be included in the follow-up email.
Yeah,
that will help me answer a bunch of these that are.
Yeah, I've been trying to answer some of those in the Q&A, but I'll post the email address on the chat so everyone can see.
Great. Sorry, I'm trying to find, let's see. There's a question about use of trucking services. Randy, is that part of, can you describe that part?
Right. We would not, trucking is not a prime or first tier thing. So this would be between the prime bidders and how they set things up. But we are going to encourage very strongly all of the primes to look for all opportunities. So if you're a XBE trucking firm, then you'll have access to who the primes are. Hopefully you got a flavor from the presentation of which of those, like earthwork, almost all of those packages involve some form of trucking. And so there are opportunities there. So those firms should reach out to those primes and make sure that they aware of them and what they have to offer.
Thanks. There's a question about companies certified under the Port Authority being accepted as an XBE. The Department of Treasury does do reciprocity with Port Authority. You still have to get certified through them, but it's a very streamlined process to do so. There's a question where I lost it. There's a question about the does the PLA only apply to work performed on site? Can you answer that one?
Again, that gets into the lawyer realm, but I had a recent interpretation given to me that if the work offsite is dedicated to this project, then it falls under the PLA. So if you have a fabricating, let's say you're fabricating the rebar and you're only fabricating the rebar for this job, then the PLA would apply. If it's a facility that fabricates rebar for multiple jobs, different projects, then it would not. That's my understanding of it.
Okay. There's a bunch of questions about specific packages and who to contact. Again, by way of follow-up, we'll be sending out an email with the recording of today's presentation, or of this presentation, the slides themselves, and then specific links and emails for you to follow up with contact, whether you are interested in serving as a prime for a particular package, if you're interested in providing the services that we've listed as additional bidding services that are the non-construction services or materials, the contact information to follow up there, as well as if you're interested in being a sub for any of the packages. We'll also be including contact information for the Prime, the companies that have been invited to Prime already. Again, there's if you're interested in priming, still reach out to AECOM for that, but that information will be provided after the call. It might be on Monday because it'll take us a moment to just finalize the formatting of this video. Trying to find some other questions in here because there's some back and forth. Julie or others, if you see particular questions that I'm missing, please chime in.
Just highlight, Jen, for everybody, for our audience, that through Treasury, the certification process, if you're finding that, you're having any issues there, or if you need, some further, support and assistance with that, please do not hesitate to reach out to us, specifically to, the DE&I team at EDA. I think Kyle is on the line here now. We have contact information for all of us that we will provide to you, but I just want to make sure that even if you are not currently registered with the state as an XBE, minority owned, women owned, veteran owned, we can help in that regard with trying to get you, registered and certified. So let us know, please don't hesitate.
There's a question here about service disabled veteran owned businesses be allowed. The answer is yes. We have a specific 3% contract value for that type of business.
Yep, 3% is on all state contracts. We've been doing that for a bit now. So yes, please, service disabled veterans, we need your participation. And
Rosanna, I know that you've been sending adding that email. Maybe if you could just do it again in the chat as well as the Q&A, because it seems like there's a few people still asking for that. There's a question about the difference between the 6% set aside goal for Salem County than the other MW or XBE goals. And yes, that 6% set aside is specific for, that is a AECOM goal to support local businesses specific to this project. The 15% MWB goal, the 25% small business goal, and the 3% service disabled veteran goal are come from EDA as part of our contract with AECOM. I know that I'm probably missing some other questions in here, and we can do our best to follow up and answer those additionally after the webinar. So there's a lot of contact information that I'm going through. There also someone had mentioned that you were having trouble copying the chat, so we will copy that chat and share that with you as well.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of our follow-up, there will be some contact resources. So if your question is not answered today or not answered through some of our follow-up, we can make sure that it doesn't fall through the cracks.
I see two more questions that I think we can get answered. Rosanna or Randy, if you can answer, there's a question about if trade tap is only for primes.
Correct.
Rosanna, do you want to expand there? So trade tap is only for primes, but does that also include if you are a prime providing one of those non-construction related services as well?
Yeah, so anybody that AECOM Tishman would have a contract with, so it could be a vendor that we might be just purchasing something directly, or a prime, right? Even if it is those small services where we're writing a PO or even a consultancy agreement, anybody that would have a direct contract with AECOM Tishman would go through the trade tab pre-qual.
Great, thank you.
So Jen,
yes,
the primes, just to confirm what you just said, the primes get trade tapped if you're bidding as a prime. Those the packages that we listed, the 10 packages, and I think she's saying in addition, if we on our general conditions, our general requirements, procure say site photos, that's a direct contract with us, then that would be trade tapped.
Thank you for that clarification. And I think the last question that we'll be able to answer live right now is, will the webinar attendance mean that you're interested, mean you're interested for the invite? And I'm interpreting that as meaning that, does it automatically mean that you're invited to bid? And the answer to that is no. If you are interested in serving as a prime, you should contact AECOM at that email provided, and it's been listed a number of times in the chat, will be included again in the follow-up. If you're interested as a sub, again, you can reach out to the contact information they'll be providing for the companies that have been so far invited to bid. Can also follow up with AECOM to share your interest, and then we can have that information as well. That brings us to time, so I'll bring it back to Julia to close us out.
If I could just say one thing to Julia, Michelle, Jen, the whole team EDA, on behalf of all the diverse chambers, we really, really thank you for stepping up and looking out for the XBE diverse business community. You guys have really done your due diligence and gone overboard to try and produce procurement opportunities for minority, women, and veteran businesses, and we certainly appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Ditto. Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Jen.
Julia, you're on mute.
Thank you. We hope that this continues to be, or this is really the tip of the iceberg as we further dive in to this project and future offshore wind related activities and opportunities, at least speaking for my department, but I know EDA is very committed to continuing to improve opportunities and access to opportunities for XBEs. So I am sure that as we've taken this first foray into a deeper dive, that there are still areas where we need to continue to improve or provide clarity, and we're very receptive to that. And please don't hesitate if you have questions. We want to make sure that you have the resources you need to be able to make the best decisions for your business. So now that we are a little over time, I will let us close and thank you all for your time today. We look forward to following up and hearing from you, and hopefully seeing many of you on future contracts related to the Windport.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
One last plug. We should have included this in the slide. On December 16th, we're going to be having an Offshore Wind 101 an Offshore Wind Ready presentation, which is about a 4-hour training. We can include the link to register for that as well. It's a discounted price for that training, but that will give you more visibility into the offshore wind industry writ large, not specific to the New Jersey Windport, but maybe of interest to many of you on the call.
Yeah, and more to come on that too as well. We'll give you some more details on that training and just about cost and all that good stuff. Okay. Thanks so much, Jen. Thanks, Julia. Thanks, team. Thanks, AECOM. And
Thanks, everyone.
to all of you. Happy Friday. Bye-bye.
Happy Friday. Have a good one. Bye-bye.